choosing the right endgames. Today I'm going to show you two examples from my games where I had to make a decision to which endgame I want to go to, and it's a really important decision because it could really change the result of the game. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. Here in our first example, we're actually going to first look at this middle game, but the end game is going to come soon enough. So what can we say about this position here? We can see that black has an isolated pawn. Right now it's not so easy to attack it. We have a lot of pieces here, two rooks piled up on that pawn, also our bishop. But the problem is that, okay, if we want to move our knight, then attack this pawn, then also this pawn here is loose because of the bishop and the knight and everything, so it's not that easy. But okay, black has an opportunity here to just take our bishop, and he did. The point here was that I wanted to take this guy first here, so he can't do anything with the knight because his queen is falling, of course. So he has to take the knight, and then we recapture this knight. And my idea here was that, okay, he got rid of his isolated pawn, but now he has hanging pawns, and they're quite weak, as you can see. We're attacking this one first of all. We're putting a lot of pressure here in the center, so I thought this must be good for us. He can't, play something like this because this guy here is going to fall. So that's why I decided to go for that. Now, queen to f6 is the most natural move. Also attacking here on f2, I decided to play bishop to f3, and now I have a hidden trap in the position, and I was really hoping my opponent was going to fall for it, and he did. So it was quite interesting. He just played the rook to c7, and of course, bam! I just take on e6, and okay, if he takes the rook, we take here, and his queen is going to fall because of the pin. That's why he just took on b2, and now the best move for white is just to take here on d5 with the queen, have some threats, or he has to probably move or something like that, and this would be the best for white here. We are like we're a pawn up, and we're also very active. But okay, I just took the queen. He took the queen back, and I took this pawn. Now we're getting close to some important decisions here in this endgame. As you can see, we're a pawn up here, and our threat here is of course to just play rook to b5, attack the bishop, and also attack this pawn with the help of this bishop. And then we're just going to be 2 pawns up, and it's going to be overwhelming. So he has to do something about this. And during the game I was thinking about b6, just to stop this idea of attacking both the bishop and the pawn. But he didn't play that. He played king to f7, which I think was not a good move. I just moved my rook here, and now the threat, of course, is to just play my rook here with a check, and after he takes, we recapture with a check, and we also take this pawn, and again, we're 2 pawns up here, and we should be just winning. So that's why he doesn't have any real good defense against this, I think. If he plays b6 now, then again still this, and this guy falls. So that's why he played his rook here. So after I check him, he can do this, but it doesn't matter. We still have this threat of rook to b5, and that's the point here. He has to move the bishop, and we take this pawn. Now I could have taken the pawn with the bishop. That's another possibility to go into this type of endgame. Because a lot of times it's really risky to go into opposite colored bishops endgame like we see here. Even when your opponent is 2 pawns up, sometimes it's still a draw, so it's really risky. But here I knew that this must be winning. So he played king to e6, and I just played f4. He played g5, I played e4. I have no problem of him taking here because I have 2 passed pawns, and this should be winning. I should just come closer with my king. Only important thing is that we push the pawns on the dark squares and not on the light squares, so he doesn't make some sort of a blockade with his dark squared bishop, as you're going to see. He didn't take, he checked us, we moved, he played h6, and I just played h4. Just, attacking this pawn twice. He took here, we recaptured, and now it's really an easy win. The only thing we basically have to do is we have to come closer with our king and then just push the pawns on the dark squares, because our next thing is going to be to just check this king away from the light squares, and then, you know, improve with our king, and then we're going to get all the way to the promotion square. So what is he going to do? He can wait, but we're going to check the king. When he goes back, we can just push this pawn. And we of course repeat that, and it should just be an easy win. Let me show you. We can also just play this move here because he can't sacrifice the bishop because there are still 2 pawns on the board. So he has to move. But now, okay, we can come closer with the king, push away the king, and then just win the game with these 2 pawns. So the important thing here is, of course, you never, in these opposite colored bishops, you basically never want to push your pawns like this. It's just ugly because he can go here, and as you can see, he has some sort of a blockade on the dark squares. I mean, you can't attack the king now because your bishop is on light squares. It can't do anything to him, and your king also can't do anything. So you never want to do something like this, and that's why these opposite colored bishops endgames are a lot of times drawn. But of course, with the right technique, you should win this. You see, if I didn't know that this endgame, this opposite colored bishop's endgame, was actually winning for me, and I thought that maybe, okay, he can, you know, clutch out a draw or something, then I probably wouldn't have taken this pawn with the rook, but with the bishop, which is still winning, of course, but maybe it would give my opponent more chances to make some complications with the rook also. So that's why it's important to make the right decisions and to know your endgames so you can convert your advantages as easily as possible. So okay, let's go to the next example, guys. And here I was black. As you can see, we have a knight for 3 pawns, and the position is actually drawn. We can't win this because there's really a lot of time, a lot of pawns, unless he blunders some. And he also can hardly win this because we also have a piece, a knight. And this was a tournament game, and I was pretty low on time also. So I just wanted to get into some easy drawing endgame so I wouldn't have any problems at defending this game and just getting a draw out of it. So, okay, here he played rook to b5. I defended my knight. He moved the king closer, and now a drawing move is, of course, also knight to b7. And, you know, just playing on, but like I said, I didn't have a lot of time, and maybe I would mess up somewhere because of all these pawns and everything. So that's why I didn't play that. I actually found this resource of just giving away the knight for 2 pawns. The point is that after he takes the knight, we take the pawn. We just got into a rook endgame where he's a pawn up, but as you know, in the rook endgames where your opponent is a pawn up, it's a lot of times still a draw. You can just hold it. If there are less pawns, it's easier, of course, but here our rook can, you know, attack these pawns. These pawns are not very safe and very mobile, as you can see. So this shouldn't be a problem, just getting a draw out of this. But you have to be precise still. So here he just played king to e3, and I played my rook to a7. Now the point of this is that, okay, I didn't want to go away with my king. Of course I can't go here because I didn't want to get something like a rook here attacking my pawn. So that's why, okay, I defended my pawn first here, and then he just played f5 because he saw that whatever he does, I mean, what is he going to do? He can move the king or something, but I think we can just attack this pawn here, and how is he going to defend it? He can probably just go back. So he doesn't have any other ways, you know, of getting forward. Of course, something like this is just bad. He can't do anything with his pawns now because they're blockaded. He can't push this pawn, so that's why he just played f5. And it's not a bad try, of course. I just took the pawn, he recaptured, and I took again. Now he went for my pawn on f5, but I just defended it. Now he's no longer a pawn up, but he thought that maybe he might, you know, win this pawn back and get into some winning endgame. But I was precise, I didn't allow that to happen. Here he checked me, and of course we don't go here because his trick is to just check us here and then just, win this endgame here. He takes this pawn and promotes to a queen. So this would be a really bad thing to do, of course. That's why I just went to d6 here. It's a safe square, and of course I had to, when I went into these lines, I had to calculate that after king to d6 and rook to c5, again, same thing, he wants the same thing to win here. That after this, I have some defensive resource, which is rook to a4 here. Just attacking this pawn, it's really hard to defend it. I mean, he can't defend it actually. I mean, whatever he does, we're going to take this pawn. If he goes back, then okay, I guess we can even play a move like this. But okay, he took the pawn, I took the pawn. We're also taking his rook now, so he has to spend another tempo with the rook, and he moved it. I played this, and of course, the idea of this move is to then just go here and protect our pawn from that way, so everything is safe. He doesn't, win our pawn here and then just wins the endgame. He went for the last trick here with rook to e8, trying to give us a skewer, but we just checked the king. The king had to go back, and now we can just start checking the king. You can see that the king can't go anywhere, and it's just a draw. So why did I actually show you this game? I showed you this game, first of all, for you to see how to make practical decisions during the game. If you don't have a lot of time, like I said, just try to get into some simplified positions so you can't really mess up, the draw if you want the draw, or the win if you want the win. As you saw, I didn't play on here with knight to b7. I just knew that I can draw this endgame here, this rook and pawn endgame, and it's going to be easier for me to hold that endgame than to, try to hold this endgame with the knight against 3 pawns. So that's why I decided to do it. And second of all, why I showed you this game was also because of the technique of drawing this endgame. Because I knew that this just has to be a draw, because I saw that, okay, we can keep pressure on this pawn and he doesn't have any good breaks. So that's why I just went for this endgame. And then with some precise calculation and some precise moves, we just drew this endgame. So guys, I hope that you liked these two examples. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.